Of course, Bruce Willis is in this film because that's all the films I've been watching has been all Bruce Willis. This time he's back for the sequel of Fortress with now Fortress Sniper's Eye. What's up, folks, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the film Fortress Sniper's Eye, which is in theaters, on demand, and digital as of April 29th. Now, this is the sequel of the 2021 movie Fortress, starring Bruce Willis. Now, as I said in my previous review, which also dropped today, of another Bruce Willis film, is that this is the Bruce Willis farewell tour, unofficially. But yes, he has been putting out a ton of films. He's been working really hard during the pandemic, yet it has also come to the news that he will be retiring, a decision made by his family because of his deteriorating health. With that being said, the fact remains the same. Bruce Willis is in films, and his name being attached to it just makes the film a draw. In this film, much like in the sequel, because I mean in the previous film, with this being the sequel, he plays Robert again, and Robert is still Bruce. Let me go back to Bruce. Bruce is still taking it easy in this film. They show Robert in the beginning of the film and really kind of setting the stakes up for the film. He's on a mission, and he rescues and saves this woman, Sasha, who happens to be the widow of one of his old nemesis. And then that old nemesis, who he thought was gone, is back. Not only back for his wife, but back for vengeance, but also here for some money. $600 million at that. So, with that being said, the character Robert is well protected because in this mission he's hurt, and thus that puts him sort of on recovery, bed rest in the beginning part of the film, and then he eventually crawls from out of the bed, out of the hospital, the infirmary, to then be a part of the main fight and whatnot. So, like, just to kind of give context, like, they're protecting Bruce in these roles so that, you know, his name is attached to it, but it's more or less about him being sort of a cameo in these films. So there's that. Now, a couple of things I had issue with this film was the dubbing. There was clearly that they had to go back and post and do some additional audio because, like, the sound was extra. Like, it was piped in very loud. It was super noticeable. And, like, even some of the sound effects. There was a scene where they were, like, walking through the jungle, and the grass was so loud. It was like they were walking on glass. It was so loud. Like, every footsteps. It was to a point where it's like, is someone even walking? And there were very minimal movements of steps, and they were extra loud. Like, extra, extra loud. But I will say that, like, you know, this was a film that I feel that Bruce Willis collected a check. Because he was so chill in this one. Like, I feel like in some of the other ones, he was taking it easy. And again, keeping them protected. But this one, he was so chill. Even in his dialogue. And I fully respect. And he will always be a legend. One of the most iconic actors. But in his delivery, it was so chill. It was like he was just kicking back. He gave this motivational monologue in speeches. And it was just so relaxed. And it was just like, yeah, just kind of chilling, you know. I think the action was okay, the build was okay at times, but I really didn't care about the plot or the characters at all. Like, I really didn't. And in terms of, like, the production and whatnot, I mean, it follows suit of the first one. And if you didn't see the first one, then this feels like an episode of Arrow on the CW from DC. Like, except it had, you know, adult language and some gore. But, like, by all means, this was, like, exaggerated drama and action. Like, the fight choreography was even extra at times. You're just like, yeah, that was super exaggerated. No one would have actually did it that way, especially in a fight for survival. No one would have kind of went in that route. Like, everything was very, so I say, a sequence of stage events and like very cinematic projected action. Like, telegraph is a good word of like where you saw things kind of going, and they absolutely executed in the most predictable fashions. And like the bad guy, like this guy, Balzary, like it was hard to even get behind him. You never felt like he was a true threat. Like, you never felt the sense of danger or urgency for the good guys. And like, ultimately he outstayed his visit, like, or his presence. Like, once he got the money, he was kind of like, all right, sir, like, you're done. And this was kind of like, oh, what else can I be evil about, you know? And it's just stuff like that, you know, just kind of like, but I don't know. At no point did I ever feel like anybody was actually, like, even for Balzary, I didn't feel like he was actually a threat or threatening anybody. And like, there was actually a point of this film where another one of his henchmen was being threatened by a knife, and this person was like a badass in previous scenes, and then one of the characters take the knife and put it near his private, and then he's like, gives up the information. Like, she didn't even actually hurt him. He was just like, all right, I'll give it to you. After he was like, I won't give you anything, and kind of talking in circles around her and whatnot, and then like kind of like submitted to her with like really no legitimate threat. So I was like, okay, that was kind of underwhelming. But honestly, like, to be quite frank, this wasn't so much an action film as it was more a family drama with guns. Like, characters felt unnecessary. It was like they had to instate everybody who they were to everybody, but like they actually wasn't necessary in terms of like the development of stuff. And then there was like some double crossing aspects to this or whatever, and I guess, I don't know. And then the final act with the big baddie in Balzary, like, he threw a temper tantrum, and I was like, really? Kind of laughed at it more than I was like puzzled. I just was kind of like, all right, I'll just enjoy this for the laughs and whatnot. And then the character Sasha, who was the character that Robert had saved, she kind of gets her redemption story. So I guess in terms of like the plot doing something, I guess like that kind of comes full circle and whatnot. But I can't stress enough, this absolutely felt like a CW DC property level of production. Like, not low budget, but like definitely totally cable TV quality. And there's that. So I don't know. So if you've seen the first one, you're probably interested in the second one. If you haven't seen the first, then you probably aren't missing anything, like, to be honest. Like, this is again, just another film in the Bruce Willis retirement farewell tour. This time being Fortress Sniper's Eye. Jump in the comments, folks. Let me know your thoughts about it if you're checking it out and whatnot. Man, as always, stay tuned for the next Bruce Willis review, because I'm sure there's another film coming down the pipeline right now. So I'll see you around for it. Big old bell.